The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope everybody is having a great. I guess we're starting to wrap down our Tuesday. We're right in the middle here. Before we get started, I just want to address if anybody has any questions, because this is a shorter presentation. Typically, we only keep these ones around 30 minutes or so. Go ahead and just type those in the questions chat, and we'll read those at the end and go over all questions at the end. That way, we don't have to stop and interrupt Jay during his presentation. So we would like to say thank you to the State of Michigan, a valued partner, for being part of our Safe and Calm webinar series. Today's presenter will be Jay Cowellwerts. He is the AFC and Camps Division Director with Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, Bureau of Community and Health Systems. Jay is responsible for the administration and programmatic operation and regulation of homes for the aged. His responsibilities include the licensing, investigations, and disposition of facility complaint allegations, the handling of adult foster home inquiries, and the certification of specialized programs and licensed adult foster care. Today, he'll be talking about AL and HFA updates, as well as AFC and camp licensing. No, I thought that was AFC. Sorry about that. AL and HFA updates. Other than that, I think we are good to go, and I will turn it over to Jay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we also have camps in there, so I think that's where you were going with that. That we oversee, which is also another fun problem we're trying to resolve on how do we open camps this summer. But well, first, thank everybody. I know this has been a long, grueling experience for everybody, spending a lot of time, trying to keep your residents and staff safe and your facilities staff. So want to thank everybody for what they're doing, and remember that we're there to assist you where we can. So late last Friday, right, because that's the way the state likes to do things, send things out on Friday to say we get them done. We sent out a survey on behalf of MDHHS, Behavioral Health and Developmental Disability Administration. Hopefully you guys received that. They had a kind of a short turnaround to get that survey filled out and sent back. A deadline of, it was actually yesterday, Monday, and they're compiling that data for a variety of reasons. One thing that they're looking at is possibly deploying the National Guard to help test residents in AFCs and HFAs where maybe local health departments haven't been able to do so yet. I know some local health departments have been doing some of those testings in facilities. It seems like the priority is nursing homes, but then have begun to move to HFAs and AFCs. So that survey that was sent out was not for the purposes of fulfilling the reporting requirements in Executive Order 2050, and we'll cover that Executive Order a little bit later in the presentation. MDHHS is setting up they call it Survey Gizmo, I think is the platform they're going to end up using, and hopefully have that available by the end of the week for reporting requirements for EO 2050. So this is, I just got this today. This was basically the results that MDHHS got back from that survey that was sent out over the weekend. So the first column, can you see my cursor when I do that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so that first column was basically the number of facilities that filled out the survey. So there was 124 HFAs that filled out the survey. So that's not too bad. That's about a little over a third of HFAs filled out the survey, and then 830 AFCs filled out the survey. And then the next column is the number of residents within those facilities that filled out the survey, and then the number of positives within those facilities that filled out the survey, and then the percentage of residents that were actually tested within the facilities that were served, that filled out the survey, and the number that actually tested positive. And then this bottom chart is more as they start to look to like I say, possibly use the National Guard to do testing at facilities, trying to figure out the best way to do that, either coming to the facility. So only if they were going to test facility wide, some of the questions were, does the facility have the capacity to transport all the residents and staff to a testing site? And so only 23% of HFAs said that they could transport everybody if needed. And this is staff are capable of actually taking a test sample, and then percentage of facilities that filled out the survey that said they have the capacity to transport them, staff and residents to a testing site. And if they actually have testing supplies that they're available to get now, like through the local health department, and if they have sufficient PPE, in addition to your normal PPE to transport to a testing site. So just provided that, I guess, just as information, see where you fall with, I guess, with who actually filled out the survey. Some of this, for those that may have participated a couple of weeks, might be a little bit of overlap, but just letting everybody know that from an AFC and HFA standpoint, we're trying to minimize our on-sites whenever possible for both complaint investigations, or special investigations as we call them, or renewal inspections. So we're trying to do those virtually when possible, but we may need to come out in some instances to verify that the residents are safe, and to complete our investigation. In those instances, we will at least we'll be wearing a mask and practicing social distancing while on site. Bureau of Fire Services has postponed all their inspections. I just talked to someone from Bureau of Fire Services, and that they still are doing that. They have done some revisits via documentation and or pictures to close those out, but they have not been going on site. So if we can't complete the renewal virtually or in person by the expiration of a license, or Bureau of Fire Services can't get out to do their inspection and give their approval, basically we'll send an extension letter out to you if your license is expiring during this crisis. And that's obviously assuming that an application is being filled out for renewal. Some of the executive orders. So Executive Order 61 allows AFCs and HFAs to postpone fingerprinting of new staff until 10 business days after the state of emergency. So if you postpone that fingerprint, though, the executive order requires that an iChat be completed on that individual until they can be fingerprinted and cleared. Actually, the guidance is out now. I'll send that afterwards. The link to the background checks, workforce background check guidance. So I'll send that out afterwards, and hopefully we can, Leading Age can get that to all the participants. Executive Order 77 basically replaced 59, which was the former Stay Home, Stay Safe directive. So that now goes through May 28th. In that directive, it does outline that direct care workers are critical infrastructure, essential workers. Requires all businesses, including AFCs and HFAs, to at a minimum provide a non-medical face covering to their employees. But what 77 added is several other requirements for basically all employers that have in-person workers. Have to develop a preparedness and response plan consistent with recommendations and guidance on preparing workplaces for COVID-19, developed by OSHA. And that here is a link basically to give you some guidance on that. It requires workers and residents to remain 6 feet apart whenever possible. It requires that a mask be worn when a 6 foot distance from others cannot be maintained. And it actually says to consider wearing a face shield when a 3 foot separation cannot be maintained. You know, I know that's going to be difficult for some providers as they struggle to get PPE. I mean, that was pretty evident in that survey that came out that many do not have the PPE they need still. So I think that if you obviously can't get a mask, that at least some sort of facial covering be worn by staff whenever interacting, especially with residents. Talks about increased cleaning to limit exposure of COVID-19 within your facility, and also develop a protocol for cleaning and disinfecting if you have a positive COVID-19 case, you know, in your facility. And once again, the order itself is a link that you can go right to it. And if you want to, actually read through it all, you can click on that link and I think the area to focus on that's new is section 11, subsection A through H. So Executive Order 2020-50, it's been out for a little while now. This was MDHHS was given authority to implement this EO. Director Gordon had released some guidance, but that was primarily for nursing homes. We're still waiting for final guidance from MDHHS. I know they have, I've seen a draft frequently asked questions, but that hasn't been finalized or released yet. So some of the things that's in this executive order is facility can't effectuate an eviction or voluntary discharge for lack of payment. We're hoping to get some sort of guidance if that still allows you to issue a discharge or not from MDHHS, since they have authority, and haven't gotten that guidance yet. But obviously you can't effectuate it or basically make somebody move out during the emergency state of emergency. The executive order also requires that all communal dining be canceled, as well as group activities, and talks about disinfecting and cleaning the facility with relevant CDC guidance. And this executive order actually expires tomorrow at the end of the day. I haven't heard anything official, but I'm assuming that this order will be extended. So Executive Order 50 also requires that employees be notified of presence of COVID-19 affected residents as soon as possible, but no later than 12 hours after someone has been identified as testing positive. The reporting thing, as I mentioned earlier in an earlier slide, still hasn't been finalized, but once that is live, it's going to require reporting of TPD and presumptive cases to MDHHS. EM Resource is basically what nursing homes are using, but that platform wasn't able to absorb the volume from AFC and HFA, which is why they didn't use it. And then if you have questions or concerns, there's an MDHHS website that can provide guidance on EO 50. So executive order talks about when to transfer. However, transferring to a regional hub is not yet available for AFCs and HFAs. Right now, regional hubs are only taking discharge from hospitals and nursing homes, and actually, they're, I think the TCF centers is now been suspended because it hasn't been used. I think last I heard there was 39 residents with all that as all that's been transferred to the TCF or the old Cobo Hall Center. I provided a link. I guess I can try just to see. So who's actually been identified as a regional hub. And most of them are in Southeast Michigan. Can you see this screen? Since I can't see which.
Yeah, no, we can see it.
Okay. So most are in Wayne County, in Macomb, Oakland, Monroe, all that southeast side. There's one in Kent and one in Traverse City, but for the most part, like I say, it's all Southeast Michigan. Just for, I know there's a lot of people asking where are the regional hubs, so that's provided now. I need to go back to my website.
Also, while you are taking a quick break here, I just wanted to let anybody know if they do want the handouts, I was able to add those. So you should see a little handouts tab, and you can go ahead and download this presentation that's going on right now. Thanks, Jay.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's great because, like I say, that there are a lot of links on here that get you the information that you may be interested in. So since regional hubs are not an option right now for AFCs and HFAs, MDHHS put out some guidance to protect residents of long-term care facilities. And once again, this is a link if interested in reviewing that document. MDHHS was working on some guidance and additional guidance and frequently asked questions for the CEO. And I know there was a draft status rolling around. Hopefully that's released soon. Executive Order 72 bans visitors to AFCs and HFAs through May 31st now. That was extended from the previous order of Executive Order 2020-37. Requires, I think this is new, staff and visitors shall wear face covering when within 6 feet of another person. So obviously this was before Executive Order 77, which now requires staff to wear a mask when within 6 feet of another person. And then the only person that can be allowed visitors within your AFC or HFA are basically a parent or guardian of a person who's under 21. So that's primarily going to be your AFCs, not necessarily your HFAs. So a child or relative of a person that's receiving hospice or is in a serious or critical condition, actively dying, pretty much is what that later part means. But hospice was not defined, so anybody on hospice would be allowed to for a child or relative to visit. With that, your facility can set up protocols for these visitors to go, maybe directly to a resident's room, maybe limit the number of people visiting at a certain time, so you can visit within that room without potentially contaminating other portions of the facility. And then the last person that can visit is a person exercising their duties and responsibilities as a durable medical power of attorney or court-appointed guardian. So that's not necessarily just to visit, that would be to actually fulfill their duties, making decisions, or say discussing decisions on medical or other types of decisions that couldn't be done by phone or like a video conference. I threw this into my last presentation, and I don't know if this is, hopefully you've all heard about this by now, of the governor has basically approved a $2 an hour premium for direct care staff that provide, like home health, My Choice, or CMH funded services, or services to those that are home health, and for 3 months. MDHHS is working on a process to ensure the premium pay goes to those direct care staff, and then questions on premium pay really need to go to the CMH that you made contract with, or MDHHS. They should be able to provide more information on that direct care staff premium pay. So we've been trying to keep up on frequently asked questions that we get. So we've posted a link on our website, and we update that fairly frequently as we get new questions. So once again, this is a link, and you can get to all the frequently asked questions, just highlighting a few. That TB testing can be postponed until after the state of emergency, but we still expect the facility to do a self screening of any new employees for possible TB, similar to we had a TB testing shortage, I think last summer. Be similar to that. And CPR and first aid training can be temporarily completed online, with the expectation that any in-person testing, would be done once the state of emergency is lifted. For those whose training certificate expires, that expiration date is expended for 60 days or throughout the state of emergency, whatever is longer. And that was basically decided. The American Heart Association put out a recommendation to extend their certificates for at least 60 days. Reminder that you can continue to admit new residents, but if you do admit new residents, you want to properly screen them and put proper protections in place when admitting a new resident, which could be quarantining them in their new room for 14 days. But if you are going to do like a quarantine once admitting new residents, you want to obviously talk about that up front before they're admitted, and my recommendation would put it, that right in the new admission paperwork that they're signing, so they're aware that that's going to be the case when they're admitted. Some other frequently asked questions talks about can a new employee postpone their physical, which would be fine, because I know some doctors' offices aren't open or only doing telemedicine right now. So we'd still expect the facility should screen the employee to make sure they're physically able to do the job, and then they could get back to scheduling that physical once the state of emergency is lifted. We had a lot of questions about, can you require a resident to quarantine, or is that a violation of their freedom of movement? And we would not consider that a violation of freedom of movement, because you're doing it to keep them safe as well as others within your facility. And on the AFC side, a licensee, there's a rule that a licensee can hold up to $200 of a resident's money for safekeeping. We've upped that to basically $1,400 for residents, because of some of the residents have been receiving stimulus checks and are unable to go to the bank or don't have a bank account to cash it. So for those that don't have a guardian or a payee that can hold it, we've allowed the licensees to temporarily hold that until 10 days business days after the state of emergency is lifted, And then at that time, we'd expect the licensee to, either work with the resident to bring that money and set up a bank account and/or take them out to spend that money down. This is just, I always put a copy of our org chart, just, a reminder to, work with your consultants, and, if your consultant's not able to assist you, or you have questions on what they're asking you to do or telling you to do, definitely always feel free to reach out to their manager. And if you're still having issues, definitely reach out to me, and we'll definitely work with you to try to resolve whatever issue you may have. And coming up, about 5 minutes left. We have any questions?
All right. Yes, I do have a question. It says, if a family member is wanting to move, discharge a resident out of the facility, is this allowed prior to May 31st? This would mean that the family and/or moving company would be coming into the facility.
Yep. So if the family wants to move that out, that would be okay, because the facility is not effectuating basically an eviction or a discharge. Moving companies, I think, are now deemed as essential staff under Executive Order 77. I would recommend, if possible, if you have facility staff that can assist in getting, furniture or whatnot to the door, that would be ideal. But if not, you're going to want to do some sort of screening protocol before letting those movers into your facility to, move personal belongings out. So.
All right, thank you. I am not seeing any other questions come in at.
Question, Blake. I'm
Oh,
sorry to interrupt.
no, I didn't even know you were here. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, sorry, Jay. This is Dalton Herbold with Leading Age Michigan. I got on the call a little late, so you may have already addressed this. But for the survey for HFAs and AFCs, for an organization that runs multiple AFCs or HFAs, would you like them to report them on the survey individually, or would you like them to report as an organization?
So that survey that was sent out last Friday. So yeah, say that's MDHHS's survey. But I had a call with Al Jansen over there this morning, and he said that was fine if they reported it as a corporation. But if they do so, then obviously you want to put all the parameters within, so if you're licensed between 4 facilities for 80 beds, you're going to put you have 80 beds. If you had 10 cases, then you had across your facility of COVID positives, then you want to put 10, not. So yeah, it was okay to do one entry, I guess, as long as all the data for all your facilities was put in that one entry.
All right, thank you. That makes sense.
All right. Now I don't see any other questions. So we would obviously like to say thank you again to Jay for being the presenter with us today. We would also like to thank all the members. I believe that we had around a little over 30 participants that took out their time today out of their busy schedules to join us. We appreciate everything you guys do each and every day to support your staff and provide quality care to your residents. We are grateful for your continued support, and we're here for you when you need our assistance and resources. I don't know if anyone on the call typically joins our COVID-19 webinar that we have every Wednesday with Deanna Mitchell, but this Wednesday's has been postponed and will now be this upcoming Friday. I believe it is the 15th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you already registered for that, you're good. You'll get a reminder an hour before that. Other than that, I think we are all set. We also have a housing webinar, or a Housing Matters program coming up as well soon. So if anybody's interested in that, go ahead and sign up. I think that takes care of everything. So thank you again, Jay, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks.